the founder, producer, and playwright of the Black Spectrum Theater Company, here to discuss today and highlight the story of Black cowboys in a new Western musical called Black Spurs. Mr. Clay, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Lurie. I am pleased to be here and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This sounds like a phenomenal topic, first of all. And the fact that there is a play that really centers the story of Black cowboys, I think is phenomenal. But before we get to that, for the audience who's meeting the theater for the first time, talk to us a little bit about the Black Spectrum Theater Company. Give us a little sense of the history there and your goals for introducing, or I should say, bridging the gaps that often exist between our communities and the theater.
Okay, well, Black Spectrum Theater is now celebrating its 55th year of operation. I'm the
Wow.
founder and executive producer of the theater. We started back in 1970, and
Mm.
our purpose then was to present works of pertinent social significance to our community. And we've stayed close to that a mission that we started in the beginning, which is, of course, to present these works that the community can relate to and that are about the community. Uh, in over the years, we've trained well over 5,000 actors. We've put
Wow.
on over 350 plays. We have about 25 films under our belt, one feature-length
What?
movie that was shown on BET, and we've been across the country doing also not only theater, but making films for urban youth. So few of our films, Babies Making Babies,
Mm.
Urban Encounters, What to Do If You Get Stopped by the Police. We've done films on health for African Americans called Obesity, written by a distinguished Dr. Gerald Dees. Uh,
Mm.
we've worked with award-winning playwrights. We've been down to the National Black Theater Festival over 5 times with productions. And we
Wow.
operate out of Southeast Queens. And we exist in the Roy Wilkins Park in Southeast Queens, which is about 15 minutes from Kennedy Airport. Our community is a vibrant one. It has a very strong history. It was the
Mm.
really one of the original places that African American musicians could exist, not exist in, but this is where they lived in the early days of jazz. So people like uh, uh, Brooke Benton and John Coltrane and Illinois Jack Cat, all of these famous jazz artists basically resided in St. Albans, Southeast Queens in
Mm.
those early days. So it's really been it's been an area where a lot of really important musicians and artists have lived. And so I'm proud to be a Southeast Queens, resident, and the theater has just been a part of that community. We've been going about our work in the Roy Wilkins Park. We have a 350 seat theater
Wow.
behind me. You can see we do dinner theater. We put on productions and uh, just a whole lot of great stuff. So one of our latest productions and concepts has been this history park, which you referred
Mm.
to in terms of the Black Cowboys. And the history park was an idea I've had for years as a former teacher. Being in a classroom with students, it's one thing for students to read something in a book, and it's another for them to have an immersive experience, something
Right.
that they can remember for a lifetime. And
Mm.
so this was something I always wanted to do, and we were fortunate enough to submit amongst a number of people submitted some ideas to our congressman uh, Congressman Gregory Meeks, uh,
Meeks. Oh,
this,
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, this project. And so uh, there was a lot of people who came together and they promoted that this be one of the projects that got funded for operations. So we're now in our
Wow.
first year, and our mission has been to take African American history and bring it to life.
Mm.
So our first production was Sunday Bloody Sunday, about the whole. It was the beginning of the civil rights struggle in Selma, Alabama,
Right.
on the Pettus Bridge. And so,
Mm.
as opposed to just talking about the Pettus Bridge, we built the Pettus Bridge, and we reenacted those things that led up to this historic march that took place at that bridge, as well as what happened afterwards, the input of Dr. King and,
Mm.
Hosea Williams and all of these folks, John Lewis. And so that was our first one. Then we kind of came back with the why do we celebrate Juneteenth? And so as opposed to talking about what happened in Galveston, Texas, we brought in the horses, we brought in the Union General, and we built
Wow.
a cotton field out there and really made it an immersive experience. So this has just been, an incredible journey. Our next one was Black Inventors. And so now we're up to Black Cowboys. And so
Mm.
over the next week, we're going to be presenting a piece written by Celeste Bedford Walker, who's a renowned playwright, and being directed by Lawrence uh, uh, Mr. Larry Floyd, I should say, who's the director. And this is a wonderful piece. This time we use music. It's a bit of an outdoor musical, but
Mm.
again, we stay true to the idea of making an immersive experience. So there'll be like at least 700 kids out there every day for the next 5 days,
Wow.
and we have horses and we've partnered with the Black Cowboys, which is located in our community. Um, uh, we call him Curly, uh, but Mr. Rowley, who is the founder of that organization, has partnered with us to bring out some real Black cowboys who have
Mm.
been going around the country and spreading this word. So it's a coming together where these young people coming from school districts 29, 28, and 27 will come out and experience this. We've also
Wow.
set up a pavilion so that they'll walk through this pavilion and see all of the items and paraphernalia that were a part of the Western experience.
Mm.
So they'll
Mm-hmm.
walk through this pavilion and then get a workshop with the real cowboy, the Black Cowboys from that organization, and then they'll see the play. And the play it's a 1 hour piece with a lot of educational information in it. We have a workbook that comes with it. And, we're just excited about this whole idea of giving them this immersive experience.
So my lawyer brain is fired up. My
All right.
educator brain is fired up because you've got it's immersive. But folks, hear what he's saying when he said immersive. It is a multi-sensory approach to teaching our history in a way that is entertaining and exciting. I'm like, can I get? I'm trying to bring my child because Roy
Yes,
Wilkins Park, that
please.
is not too far from my grandmother's house. Shout out to Southeast Queens.
All
Appreciate
right.
y'all. But this is a sort of bridging of education and the recognition of the importance of being rooted in history and
Yeah.
the arts that I feel like only we can do in the way that we can do it. So talk to us about the story of Black Cowboys in particular. A lot of people do not think about Black Cowboys and Southeast Queens having anything in common, but as you said, there are
Right.
organizations dedicated to preserving the history of Black
Right.
Cowboys in Queens. So talk to us a little bit about what you will learn as a result of this experience about the Black Cowboys, and speak a bit, if you could, to the power of the theater as a medium that can bridge all of these different elements: the visual, the sound, the smells in this case, when it comes to the experiencing the horses in real life. Talk to us a sense about give us a sense as to why the theater is such a powerful medium for education as well as entertainment.
Well, listen, that's a very good point, and I mean, and I think that the theater becomes key in this year of 2024. I mean, I started my career in the school system as a teacher, and I realized early on, having had a theater background and
Mm.
running a theater company, and then becoming a teacher, that this wasn't enough. That it's one thing for the kids to sit in these seats that are from the 18th century, and everybody's
Right.
seat is pre-planned. You can't
Mm-hmm.
move them. Now you can move them around a little bit, but I think you get the idea that that has a limited ability to capture the imagination of young people.
Mm.
So I left the school system very early on to dedicate full time to Black Spectrum Theater and the creation of an institution that would be committed to education and theater as a means of educating people. So we've covered the gamut in terms of subjects and genres, and the ability to try to bring young people in to get that. So over the
Mm.
years, it's been a struggle because everybody doesn't get that.
Yeah.
The theater's always been relegated to, oh, that's just some song and dance, and
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do that. And I think as we exist here in the year 2024, people are starting to realize that no, it's more than that, and that it has the ability to be used as a tool, not a better tool than anybody else, because we have a lot of people trying to attack
Right.
this issue of reaching our young people. So we like to think that we're doing our part as a theater
Mm.
institution to help those educators and to help those parents teach some things that, unfortunately today they may not have
Mm-hmm.
enough time to do.
Right.
Parents are doing those extra hours and stuff. So that time of sitting down with their child and saying, well, let me talk to you about Black history. They're
Right.
concerned about, how do I get those reading scores up? How do I get those math scores up? So we feel as though we're another tool to help
Mm.
in that process. So theater is very important, and the fact that they can come into the theater and experience their culture. We hear that a lot from the young people who come out and the parents who come to the theater, whether we're doing a jazz concert, whether we're doing, a piece, one of our plays, "Twas the Night Before Kwanzaa," learning about the issue
Ooh.
of Kwanzaa, whether it's timeless, so that they can understand that just maybe this isn't all there is to life, and that people do come
Mm.
back and as spirits back to this
Mm.
planet to live again, kind of like Stevie Wonder's "Higher Ground."
Mm.
um, we've talked about health, the whole struggle between traditional medicine and alternative medicine. These are
Right.
subjects that our community needs to hear and start the dialogue about, because for too long we've just kind of drank the normal Kool-Aid that goes along.
Mm-hmm.
So, we see this as a way for the community to kind of open up and have these discussions. And we like to think of Black Spectrum as a forum. We have a play on reparations and the impact of that. So we've covered a lot of ground, but this history
Yeah.
project is something that we're just really excited about, because it brings in the students, it brings in the teachers, the principals, and the schools, and the history and the education. There's a workbook that goes along with this, so the teachers can go back to the class and take up the issue. So you also mentioned, what about Black cowboys? Well, a lot of people don't realize that the whole word of Black cowboy was really a racist term,
That's right.
because
That's right.
the other folks were actually called cow hands, but with us it became
Mm.
cowboys. And
Mm.
so there's a lot of history. It wasn't about just everybody had a six-shooter and they were shooting everybody up. And by the way, in our presentation, we don't use guns, or in any of our History Park
Oh, I
presentations,
love
we
that.
don't promote violence or anything. We try to do
Wow.
it in a creative way so they can understand where there is conflict. They get the point without bringing out a gun, because our kids sometimes model things and they'll say, "Oh, you
Yes.
see that gun they brought out," as opposed to talking about the subject matter. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we kind of skip that. But this idea of the Black cowboys, it wasn't about shoot 'em ups and so forth. Uh, the idea was is that many were uh, basically folks who helped to bring the cattle to market. And so they
Mm.
would have these long rides, whether they were over a week, 2 weeks, or in some case, 2 months of being out on the range, crossing rivers, crossing mountains, dealing with rustlers who would come by to try to take some of the cattle. And so many of these skills that they developed as cowboys and cow hands were developed to make sure that the cattle reached their destination. And back
Mm.
in the late 1800s, when there was a lot of movement of cattle and being able for farmers and ranchers to be able to feed people and do farming and everything else, the cattle, the cattle were to people kind of like what a computer is to today,
Wow.
very
Oh, that's a
important,
great analogy.
you know.
Huh,
So,
that's a great analogy.
mhm,
You mentioned the history component and you mentioned the schools and whatnot. I got to be honest with you, as a parent, and I do a lot of work when it comes to education and
mhm,
teaching educators how to incorporate diversity into the classroom when I'm not here or running the law center at Medgar Evers College. But I got to be honest with you,
mhm,
as
mhm.
parents, we love these sorts of scenarios where you have provided the content, the information, the workbook, because I got to be honest with you, sir, and I'm sure you know this as well. I'm not telling you anything new, but for the sake of the audience, half the time we don't know the history either. And
Right,
we are
exactly,
learning as much from what we are
exactly.
seeing from these experiences as are our children, which one, it speaks a lot to the lack of education that we have, but the power of a theater like the Black Spectrum Theater is that you get a chance to present it to us in a way where the parents can learn something and not feel bad for not having known it. The kids can learn something, having the
Exactly.
ability to take that workbook and wrestle with the material afterwards. That's exactly the sort of educational, multi-sensory approach to education that so many educators and experts have been demanding, particularly for our children who do not often get their education needs met in the classroom. And so I want to also give a shout out. You mentioned Congressman Gregory Meeks.
Yes,
He's works alongside with my Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and the
yes.
other congressman where Medgar Evers College sits at Yvette Clark. And so we have these three
Yeah.
examples of these amazing elected officials who are doing the work of legislating at the federal level, but also bringing home the resources. And for me, that's a really important part of a
Mm.
relationship with an elected official. So shout out to Congressman Meeks for investing in this wonderful opportunity. But I also have to ask you, sir, as I'm new to the theater. I love
Okay,
going to
okay,
plays, but I'm trying to be more
okay.
serious about my connection with the theater. Is there a way for me to get a membership to the Black Spectrum Theater? Do you all
Yeah,
accept
so
donations?
that's a very good question. And uh, what we've done over the years is to come up with a process to make it very easy for people to uh, engage with Black Spectrum. And we call it
Mm,
our season subscription, season pass. And so for
excellent.
$99, what we do is provide over 20 different events that take place throughout the year, plays,
Wow.
concerts. So for an example, we have upcoming Jonathan Butler concert at Black Spectrum as a dinner theater.
Whoa.
We've brought in a theater company from East Harlem who perform at the theater doing a piece on the Motown story. We do our own Twas the Night Before Kwanzaa. We also have a production on Etta James. We have a production on, you know, Wednesday women. It's for folks. It's about older women, younger men. So we
Okay.
hit all of these genres because
Hmm.
we are a spectrum, and as a
Hmm.
spectrum, it's our duty to uh, investigate all the frequencies in the spectrum, and that's the way we
I
look at
love that.
the theater.
Yeah.
It's something you mentioned earlier about the parents being able to connect and the students, and I just want to make this point that in our production of Black Inventors, one of the interesting things that happened is because as the parents and students were sitting there in the audience, they were their minds were blown because one of the inventors was a woman who invented the home security system. Okay.
Mm.
And they didn't realize when she told her story that she grew up in Southeast Queens. She was from like
Wow.
down the block. So it really brought
Wow.
home the whole idea of,
Yeah.
this isn't something, beyond your capacity or beyond your limits, that
That's right.
sometimes it's your next door neighbor who comes up.
That's right.
Black folks have invented a lot of different things. And,
That's right.
but that's a point I wanted to make. But yes,
Mr. Clay, I love this. We the man is about to cut us off because we're about
okay.
to run up into our
Okay.
hard break, and you know how the
Okay.
man is about paying their bills.
Yes,
But so
yes,
for folks, so folks who want to connect with the theater, give us your website. I'm sure there's a
okay,
donation link on there as well, and my
yes,
audience knows I encourage them to support those who are
yes.
supporting us. So let's have your website, and then make sure we can point the folks in the right direction.
Okay, so our website is www.blackspectrum.net. That's our website. You can call us at 718-723-1800. And we're located in the Roy Wilkins Park in Southeast Queens. And this Black Cowboys, Black Spurs will run next Wednesday, from Wednesday to Saturday, the 9th through the 12th, at from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then the following week, the 17th through the 20th, we bring the production indoors for an additional run for 5 performances. And that runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7, Saturday at 2 o'clock, and Sunday at 4. So
I love it.
we want to thank you so much for having us on, and we hope you'll
Thank
come
you.
visit us.
Absolutely. I'm already trying to find out when is my daughter out of dance class because we're going to make it to Queens. It ain't that far. We going to
Okay.
make it to Queens.
Okay.
Mr. Clay, thank you so much for giving us
Thank
some of
you.
your time today. This sounds like a phenomenal experience, and I'm hoping it's one that I can catch as well. Thank you for being with us, and hope we can get you to come back to talk about other productions as well. Thank
Please,
you.
thank you for having us.